All right, Surface Transportation Board, Part 1180, Part 2, 1186, supporting information. All applicants file with the Title 49 U.S.N. Code 1132.3 with the title of the name of the applicant with the nature of the proposed transaction beneath the title to indicate the name and the title of the business address, the title and the telephone number of the person who would correspond with respect to the application should be the address of the following information shall include the applicant with the description proposed with the transaction, include the appropriate reference for the name supporting the statement that contained with the applicant with the discussing with the following of the brief summary of the proposed transaction, name of the applicant with the business address and telephone number, the name of the counsel with the question with the regarding with the transaction be addressed, the proposed time and the schedule for the consummation of the proposed transaction, the purpose of it to be accomplished with the proposed transaction, e.g., operating an economy with the eliminating of the excessive facility, improving the service, and improving the financial viability of the applicant with the nature of the amount of the name of the new security, the other financial arrangement, a detailed discussion of the public interest, justification, support of the application, indicating how the proposed transaction consistent with the public interest of the particular regard with the relevant statutory criteria. One, the effect of the transaction inter-module competition, include the description of the relevant market with the 1187, and include the discussion whether the result of the transaction is likely to any of the lessening of the competition of the creation of the monopoly, restraining of the trade of the rate, serve of the transportation, any of the region of the United States, the financial court and consideration of all of the proposed transaction, any of the companies effect of the operation, and increase the traffic, the revenue for the earnings available to fix charges, net earnings expect with the result of the consumption of the proposed transaction, effect with the increase in any of the total fix for the charges resulting of the proposed transaction, effect with the proposed transaction upon the adequacy of the transportation, serve the public the measure of the continuation of the essential transportation, serve the applicant the other carrier, the effect with the proposed transaction upon the application of the employee by the class of the craft of the geographical point of the impact will occur with the time frame of the impact at least 3 years after the consolidation with their employee protection agreement that has been reached, the effect of the inclusion and lack of the inclusion of the proposed transaction out of the railroads of the territory of the Untitled 49 U.S.N. Code 1132.4. Any of their supporting description statement of the applicable to deem the material of the option of the applicant for the counsel of the transaction meet the requirements of the law being legally authorized available to approve of the by author board with it should include the specific reference for the impertinent of the provision for the applicant by law for the charge of the article rules of the corporation and list of the state with any of the part of the property with each of the application carriers is situated. Maps exhibit 1 submitted with the general with the key mapping with indicating clearly with separate colors with the otherwise line with the applicant with the carrier with the true relation with each of the short line with the connection, the other rail line with the territory, the other principal geographical points, the region transfer for the geographical limited transaction provided with the map detailing transaction should be included with additional with the map accompanying with each of the application 20 unbound copies of the map shall be filed with the board. Explanation of the transaction describe the nature of the transaction, merger, control of the purchase over the trackage drive with a significant term of the condition with the consolidation paid with the monetary otherwise with the agreement exhibit the 2 submit with the copy of the contract for the written instrument and the enter for the proposed be enter into the pertaining with the proposed transaction additional part of it, except for the trackage right for the agreement, the renewal of the agreement that described in 1182 D7 of the money submit with one copy of the executed agreement, the renewal of the agreement that notes exemption within 10 days of the day of the agreement and with the executed, whichever is later. Consolidation merger proposed indicated A with the name of the company result of the consolidation and merger, B the shape of the territory under the laws of which the consolidated company is formed with the merger of the company to file with the certificate of the amendment, C with the capital of the proposed result of the company with the D with the amount of the charging character of the capital stock with the other securities to be issued. 4. The court order the exhibit 3 with the transverse receiver the signer with the personal with the representative of the real party with the interest of the applicant with the submit with the certified copy in order with the if any of their court over the having jurisdiction authorized to contemplate the action. All right, 5. State whether the property involved with the proposed transaction include with all the property applicant with the carrier with the non-described. Describe the property include with the proposed transaction. 6 for the briefly describe the principal of the route with the terminal line with them involved with the principal point with the interchange with the route with the mountain with the main line mileage. Branch line mileage involved with the 7. The state whether the governmental financial assistance involved with the proposed transaction show the form of the amount with the shores for the anticipation such as the functional assistance. 8. Environmental data exhibit the 4 submit the information data of the respect for the environmental manner with the prepared with the accordance with the Title 49 Part 1105 of the major significant with the transaction applicant shall assume that they are responsible for no later than filing with the notice of the intent with consult with the board of office of the environmental analysis. The reported format of the environmental report with the major transaction over the submit with the filing information Form 10K, Exhibit 6, the submit of the most recent filing of the Security Exchange Commission under the Title 17 CFR 249-310 with maybe with the year with the prior of the filing, the applicant with each of the application by any of the control of the applicant for the issue will not be incorporated with the reference shall be updated with the Form 10K, subsequently filed with the Security Exchange Commission with the during with the pendency of the proceeding. Form S4 with Exhibit 7, the most recent filing with the Security Exchange Commission under the Title 17-239.25 made with the year with the prior filing with the applicant with each of the applicant may be into the control application. They shall be incorporated with the reference by the update with the aim with the Form S4 subsequently filed with the Security Exchange Commission during the pendency of the proceeding. 3. Change the control of Exhibit 8 with the applicant with the carrier with the for the annual report form R1. Indicate with the change of the ownership of the control of the applicant, but not indicate with the most recent form R1. Provide with a list of the principal. 6. Offer the applicant with the carrier with any related applicant, also with the major owned railroad carrier subsidiaries. If any of the applicant carrier does not submit with any of the annual report form R1, list of all of the officers with the applicant and the carrier would identify with the person with the certain any or entities in control of the applicant with the carrier, all owners of the 10% more of the equity of the applicant carriers. 4. Annual report. Submit with the 2 most recent annual reports to the stockholder by each of the applicant by any within control of the applicant with the made with the 2-year for the day of the filing application. These shall not be incorporated by the reference. Shall be updated by the end of the annual quarterly reports to the stockholders. Wait, we lost. There we go. Issued during the pendency of the proceeding with Exhibit 10 with the submit with the discussion with any of the issues relevant to the transaction. 6. Corporate chart with Exhibit 11 the submit with the corporate chart with the indicating with all the relationships between the applicant with the carriers, all affiliates, subsidiaries, all of the company contributing applicant with the carrier directly, indirectly through the other entity, which each chart indicating with the percentage ownership of every company with the chart by any other company with the chart for each of the company with include the statement with indicating with the company non-carrier or carrier identifying every officer with the director of the company with the officer with the director of the any of the company is part of the different corporate family within include the carrier, rail carrier. Such information may be referenced to the notes of the chart. If the applicant with the carrier would indicate with the type of the business which is engaged, choose the link with the time so with the gave to the 3 the present with the prospective the activities have with the name of the relevant transportation subject of the Title 49 U.S. Standard Code subtitle 11. 4. Intercorporative with the financial relationship with indicate with whether any of the indirect and indirect incorporate the financial relationship at the time of the applicant is filed with not disclose with the elsewhere with the applicant with the whole with the company with the ownership of the security with the otherwise with the applicant with these affiliates with the own the control of more than 5% of the staff with the non-affiliate with include with the relationship with the group with the affiliate with the applicant owns more than 5% of the staff with the such carrier indicate with the nature with the extent of the type of the relationship with the applicant owns the security a carrier subject to Title 49 U.S. Standard Code subtitle 4 with the provide with the carrier's name with the description of the security with the pair value with each of the class of securities held with the applicant with the percentage of the total ownership. Purpose of the paragraph the affiliates with the head within the same means of the affiliated company with the definition 5 with the uniform state system and accounts of Title 49 CFR 1201 subpart A. 9. Employee impact exhibit the effect of the proposed transaction applicant with the carrier with the employee with the class of the craft with the geographical point with the impact for the curve with the time frame of the impact for at least 3 years after the consolidation where any of the employee with the protection agreements have with them read the information except with the respect of the employee with the protection agreement that may be set forth in the following form. Each of the applicant with the carrier's employer, current location, job classification, job transfer, job abolished, job created, year. Condition of the mitigate with the offset of the merger related harms. Applicant with exposed with the purpose of the meaning with the purpose of the measure to mitigate the offset of the merger related harms. These conditions should not simply with the preserve of the all in hand for the competition. All the applications must explain with the would preserve with the competitive of the operation with the shippers with the class 2 and 3 rail carriers. At a minimum, the application must explain how to preserve the use of the major existing gateways, the potential build out of the build ins, with opportunity to enter for the contract for the one segment of the movement of the means for the gaining of the right of it separately with the purpose of the rate with the relief of the remainder of the movement. And 2. The application should explain with the transaction condition with the purpose for the would in hand for the competition and improve the service. 11. Calculating public benefit. The applicant must enumerate with whether the possible to quantify the new public benefit of the merger would generate if the proof of the making an estimate with the applicant that should identify the benefit that would arrive at the service and improve the enhanced competition cost savings of the merger-related public safety interest pub benefits that we should discuss whether the particular benefits of the relying upon could be achieved with a short manager with the applicant must also identify and discuss whether the possible to quantify if the likely negative effect of the approval would entail such losses of competition potential for the disruption of any other merger related to the harms of the additional applicant for the subject of additional measure for the board might take with improve the applicant for the anticipated the public of the benefits of the identified with the applicant and fail to materialize at the time and the manner. 12. Downstream merger application. Application anticipate with the additional Class 1 merger are likely to prove the response of their own proposal to explain how to take with it together with these mergers are proven and could affect the effect of the structure of the industry of the public industry. 2. The applicant to expect with the discuss with any condition and approve the approval of their proposed merger would have altered any of the new condition and approve the board shall approve of the additional further rail mergers. The purpose of the proposed transaction purpose of the accomplishment of the proposed transaction is to improve the service with the enhancing the competition with the strength of the national transportation infrastructure, creating operational economies, ensuring financial viability, and significant transmission submitted the information specified in paragraphs B3, B5, B6, B7, and B8 with this section. 1187 Market analysis. For major significant transaction, applicant for the beneficial impact of the annual life of Exhibit 12 of describing the impact of the proposed transaction for the most adverse and beneficial for the intra and intra-module competition with respect with the freight service, the transportation region with effective provision essential for the applicant for the other care for the impact with the analysis shown could be the underlying with the data of the study with the implications, data the description of the result of the likely effect of the proposed transaction transport alternative that would be available to the United States Code 1130, United States shipping and public as aspect of the analysis should specifically address the significant impact of the relief of the applicable as a criteria 11 Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 1132 4B and D, B or D. Essentially, service of the competition application must identify the address relevant market and provide additional information required by the board on the market for the issue for the warrant further studies. Application any other party submitting their analysis must demonstrate the both of the relevance of the market issue with the analyze of the valid other methodology underlying assumptions must be clearly stated. Analyzing should reflect for the consolidated company marketing place exhibit a potential competitive alternative to intra well as intra-module, and this address can be they can address city pairs, inter-regional movement through a point other factors, particular commodity group with the other commodity factor that would be significantly affect with the transaction, other effect with the transaction such as the particular type of the service offered. B. For major transaction applications, submit the full system impact of the analysis for the incorporating and the operating for the Canada and Mexico for the demonstrate the impact of the transaction, both adverse and the beneficial competition with the reach of the United States, with the nation, with the whole, with including the inter and intra-module competition, production, product competition, with the geographical competition provision, essential service, they include the freight change, freight and passenger commuter with the applicant with the other network link class 2 and class 3 rail carriers and ports. Applicants' impact analysis must lead and provide the following type of the information: anticipated effect of the transaction, traffic patterns, market consideration, and or transportation alternatives available to shipping public consistent with 1186B10, and these would incorporate the detailed examination, competition, and enhancing the aspect of the transaction, and specific measures proposed by the applicant to preserve the existing level of the competition essential services. All right, your actual projected market for the share of the originated term and the name of the traffic of the railroad, each of the point with a combined system, the applicant of the defined portion of the individual section with a large area of the Bureau of the Economic Analysis Statistics, even the U.S. Department of Agricultural crop of the reporting district that is relevant and indicating the extent of the switch for the crop of the availability terminal belt railroads. The applicant should be lifted the points of the number of the serving railroads opposite 2, 1, or 3 to 2, respectively as result proposed transaction, both the before and after applying with the proposed remedies for the competitive harm. Actual projected market of the share of the revenues and traffic volumes, major inter-regional, with the corridor flow with a major commodity group, and with the original destination area that should be defined with the relevant levels of the aggregation commodity group. The question of the data shall be broken down with the mode of the railroad portion of the single line with the interline with the routings and show the gateways used. For each of the commodity group of the analysis, traffic flow indicating the pattern of the geographical competition project and product of the competition across the different railroad systems shall actually provide the revenues, traffic value, and the maps of and other graphic data displays helpfully illustrating the analysis of the selection exhibited with the delineation of the projected impact of the transaction ability of the various networks, including Class 2, Class 3 rail carriers and ports, to participate in the competitive process of the sustainment of essential services. 7. The supporting data with the analysis within the section, such as the base of the projection chain with the traffic pattern, including the shipping survey with the econometric, other statistical analysis of the not made part of the applicable application shall make with the data with the available the respiratory of the inspection of the material party of the otherwise supply with the data with the request example electronically access confidential information subject to the protective order for the additional withdrawn public available to publish service source of the detailed citations will suffice. If necessary, exploitation of how with a reliable consistent with the data limited application's ability to satisfy the requirements of the paragraph B with the for significant in transactions, specifically regulation impact of analysis of the not provide with the set so that parties will have the greatest leeway with to develop the best evidence of the impact with the individual transaction as well as the general guideline applications provide with the supporting data that may be but needed include current and projected traffic flow of the data underlying sales forecast, the marketing goals, interchanging data, market share analysis, shipper surveys. It's important to note that these type of studies are neither limiting or nor all inclusive. Parties must provide all supporting data, but are free to choose the types that may not be made part of the applicant. Applicant shall make with the data available to respiratory inspection of the parties otherwise supply. These data is not request for the example electronically active. The confidential information will subject to the protective order for the information drawn for the public available published sources of the detailed citations will suffice. 1188 app operational data. Application of the major transaction must include the full system of operational plan incorporating with the perspective of the operation Canada and Mexico from the must be the demonstration of the how must be the proposed application would affect the operation of the region of the United States at a national-wide basis as part of the environmental review of the process of the application shall submit with the safety integration plan with the prepared with the consultation with the Federal Railroad Administration ensure that the safety of the operation would be maintained throughout the merger implementation process. 2. Information on the measure of the plan to take additional potential block crossing as a result of the merger merger-related change of the operation creep of the rail traffic. For major significant transaction operating of the plan with the Exhibit 13 submitted with the proposed operating of the plan chart with the base on with the imposed impact and of the result of the transaction over the anticipated with the timing allowing with the aim of the time and the required with the complete with the rehabilitation upgrade of the yard construction of the major operational change with the following with the consensus mention proposed transaction plan with it should make it clear with the game with the trip of the operating efficiency the benefits anticipated from the merger of the plan shall include the pattern surface of the property with include with the proposed with the principal route with the proposed consolidation of the main line operate for the anticipated with the traffic density general category for the traffic include with the number of the trains over all the main secondary line within in the system identify all the with the expect with the have increase with the activity greater than 20% of the chain with the operation that may be somewhere over the pro form and the density chart. And commuter with the other passenger server with the operator with the line with the applicant with the carrier with the detail with the impact with the anticipated touch with the include with the detail with the location but the cover with the line with the schedule handle with the increase with the traffic due with the route consolidation. Anticipated equipment with the requirements of the road system will include with the locomotive with the rolling stock with the by the type of the maintenance way of the equipment the plane with the acquisition retirement of the equipment projected with the improvements of the equipment the utilization of the relation over the operating and change how they will be led to financial service benefits described in some of the for the description of the effect any of the debt for maintenance of the delay with the capacity with the improvements to any of the road equipment that proposed with involved with the schedule, eliminating the type of the deferrals, detail of the general system rehabilitation, including rehabilitation relating with the transaction, including the proposed with the order terminating the modifications and those activities leave with the service improvements of the operating economies anticipated with the transaction. 5. The density of the chart for the Exhibit 14 with the gross time of the mile with the traffic density chart show with the file with the applicant with the carrier with the name of the map geographically showing with each line with handling 1 million gross times miles per road more per year respective the density of the express with the gross of the ton per year in each of the direction and segment if such line with between the major freight yards and the terminals that include with the major intermodal interchange points even the corporate political subdivision name of the points as well with the railroad station name of the mileage and segment of the line should be provided and should be shown on the chart with the data shown with the density chart, which should be latest available the full calendar year proceeding with the filing of the application option with the data that may be shown with the density chart with the explanatory list. For minor transaction operating plan, minor Exhibit 5 of 15 discusses the significant change of the pattern of the type of the service reflective of the operating plan with exhibit of the used after consumption of the transaction relevant to some information of the following traffic level, the density of the line with the imposed with the joint operation impact of the commuter over the passenger service the operator over the line, which is downgraded, eliminated, operated with a consolidated basis. 3. Operating economies, which include but not limited to estimated savings and anticipated discontinuities or abandonments. All right, 1189, financial information. The following information shall be provided with a major transaction for the carrier of the conform of the board with the uniform system and the account of the Title 49 and 1201. Pro formula balance, Exhibit A16 with the transaction involved with the proceeding with the control of the pro formula balance. Shall statement begin affect with the proposed transaction commencing with the first year with the impact with analysis of Exhibit 12 of the data. Shall be presented in column area showing with the first column of the balance with the sheet with the transfer with the corporate with the entity with the basis with the second column of the balance with the sheet with the transfer with the corporate entity with the basis and the third column with the pre-form with the adjustment with the elimination the fourth column with the transfer balance sheet with the given effect with the consumption with the proposed transaction each with the adjustment eliminated with the noted fully explained pro forma the balance sheet with the submit with the number of the years following the consumption with the necessary effect of the operating plan. Your pro formula income statement exhibit the 17 with the transaction perceiving the others with the control of the sum of the pro formula income statement that's showing the transfer estimate of the revenues expended with the net income of the least 3 years following the consumption with the transaction. The pro forma data should be presented with the column area shown. All right. In the first column of the transfer, actual income statement of the corporate and even the base for the year of the indicated with the impact analysis exhibit 12, and then we'll go to 2. The second column is similar with the income statement of the transfer of the third column forecast adjustment combined revenues expended with the net income of the reflected increase the degrees is anticipated unified operation. Fourth column compilation with the first 3 columns into the formula income statement. Adjustments are to be supported with the statement explaining the base for the determine the estimated chart of the revenues expended with the net income of the period with the third column, with additional with the major financial advantage of the derived from the purpose of the transaction not occurring within 3 years after the consumption of the application shall be furnished additional information reflecting the number of the year with which the financial advantage will be realized. Based on all study for the data furnished with such shall be fully explained and supported. Source application fund of the Exhibit 18, therefore, is transferee statements of the score of the application fund of the current year for the forecast sources of the application of the funds with each for the carrier if the major or merger or consolidation serving the result of the corporation or resulting corporation for the year of the following consumption of the proposed transaction, the years necessary to effectuate the operating plan. The form of the content statement that should be constructed in accordance with the schedule of the statement of the financial position and required for the most recently with the annual part R1 and Class 1 railroads. Property with the encumbrance for the Exhibit 19, if any of the property covered for the applicant is covered with the applicant, that has agreed with the assumed obligation and liability with respect to the submit. With the description of the property encumbered with the amount with the encumbrance for the full, with the description thereof, with include with the maturity, interest rate, and the other term of the condition, amount with the encumbrance for the RDB with the applicant with the board will incorporate the reference for the current balance sheet with the same in the Class 1 railroad on the file with the board with the Class 2 and the Class 3 railroads, non-carrier entities shall submit with the balance sheet with Exhibit 20 with the income statement of Exhibit 21 covering a period ending with 6 months before the application is filed. All right, 118010. Service the assurance plan. With the major transaction, applicant must submit the service of the assurance plan with the concert the operating with the plan with the requirement to identify with the precise step of the taken the applicant with the ensure the projected service level that would be attainable. The key of the elements of the operating plan would be improve with the service of the plan, should describe the reasonable precisions. However, the operating of the plan with efficiency with the translate with the present and future benefits with the shipping public with a plan, also with the describe of the potential area of the service of the degradation that might result with the due with the operational change of the how the incident of the degraded services that might be mitigated. Like operating plan with which is based. The service assurance plan must be fully system plan encompassing. Integration operation. Based with the operating plan, give the appropriate benchmark for the application must be developed with the service assurance plan with the describing how the proposed transaction will resolve with the improved service level to how and where the service plan be degraded. Description should be of the precise route level to review with not the shipper by shipper to review. Nonetheless, the plan should be sufficient individual shipper to evaluate the projected improvement of the chain within respond with the potential area of the service of the degradation with the customary with the traffic routing of the plan should include with Class 2, Class 3 railroads, other connecting railroads, other operational changes of the changes and serve the terms of the mind effect of the operation, including the operation involved with the major gateways. All right, coordination of freight and passenger operation. If the Amtrak with the commuter services are operated over the lines, the applicant with the carrier, the applicant must describe definitely how they will continue to facilitate the operation with the full existing performing agreements of these services, whether or not the passengers for the operated over the line with the applicant operations on the line with the passenger agency. The applicant must establish the operational protocols, ensure the effective communication with the Amtrak or regional rail passenger operation, to minimize any potential transaction related to negative impacts. All right, yard and terminal operation. The operational fluidity of the yards and terminal with the key with the successful implementing transaction effective service of the shipper application to describe how the operation principle classification yards and major terminals will be changed and revised and how the revision would affect with the service of the customer. As part of the analysis, the applicant must furnish the dwell with the time benchmarks at each of the facility described in the paragraph the estimated what the expected dwell time would be. After revised operation of the implemented, also record the discussion of the downtime of the preference for the principal over the terminal with the same term, but they require the dwell time. The infrastructure improvement the applicant must identify the potential infrastructure for the impediment such as the volume capacity line with the terminal forecast with the formulate the solution with the impediment to develop with the time frame with the resolution. The applicant must also develop the capacity improvement, the permanent support of the operational plan with the time funding with the completion of the improvement, the critical transaction operation that should describe the improvement related with the future group with the indicating the relationship for the improvement and service delivery. All right, E, information technology system. The company accurate and timely integrated with the applicant with the information system. Vitally important. Serve the applicant must identify the process of the use of the system and the integration, the training involved with the personnel with those must include the identification of the principal operational related system, the operating area, the effective the implementing schedule, the layout time of the operation data, testing system, the pre-implementation training requirements needed to achieve the completion date with the system will not be integrated online prior to the implementation transfer. Applicants that must describe the interim system to be used the adequacy of the system to ensure services delivery. F, customer service. The achieve of the maintain with the customer service of the transaction, ensure the successful integration, consolidation, existing customer service, the function of the applicant must identify the plan with the staffing, the training, with the personnel within the supporting customer service center. With the discussion must include the specific information of the plan step with the familiar of the customer with any of the process procedures they encounter with the use of the consolidated system. and or change of the continue contact location, telephone number to communication mode. Labor applicants must furnish the plan reaching the necessary with the labor implementing agreements. Applicant must approve of the provide evidence sufficient qualified employees would be available at the proper location with effect of the implementation. Age training. Applicant must be establish a plan of the providing necessary training with employees involved with the operation of the traffic and training with the engaged with the service operating rule of dispatching payroll, keeping with the federal field data with the entry, safe with the hazard materials, complying with the contract, your support function with the crew van, service as well with the training of other employees with the function would be in effect with the acquisition. All right, contingency plan for the merger related with the service disruptions. To address the potential disruption of the service that can occur with the applicant must establish the contingency plan with the plan should either be able to reach over the traffic flow of the contingency that must identify the potential over the disruption risk of the occurrence, but the applicant must provide the evidence if the contingency plan would be planned placed to properly restore the adequate service level. The applicant must provide with the establishment provide problem resolution. Term of the describe the specific research and procedure that you utilize with the problem resolution. Alright, J, the timeline. Applicant must identify all of the major functional system with the chain of the consolidation that would occur with the timeline with a successful benchmark, with specific benchmark requirements of the area with the transaction minimum of the benchmark will be 12 months of the area immediately preceding the filing of the date of the notice of the intent filing with the applicant with the benchmarking is intent to provide the historical month of the baseline against the actual post-transactional level of performance that can be measured. Benchmarking data should be sufficiently detailed with the incumbency for the give of the meaningful with the picture of the operational performance for the newly merged system. Applicant will report the matrix structure for the give of the historical monthly benchmark data provided with the reporting of the actual monthly data during the monitoring of the period of the important the data reflected the uniformly constructed measures of the historic and post-transaction operation minimum benchmark data includes. Alright, 1. Your corridor performance benchmarking will consist of the route level of the performance information, include with the flow of the data of the traffic moving the applicant system of the data will encompass the flow to and from the points of the major point where the could be the Bureau of Economic Analysis and Statistical area that can be railroad created with the point of the based on the operational group of the station and the interchange that could be another similar construction would necessary for the applicant with the defined traffic points used to establish benchmarks for purposes of monitoring a sufficient number for the corridor must be reported fully representing the system flows include the interchange with the short line other class 1s internal traffic or respective applicants before the transaction identifying the traffic flow of the area that also must be identified with the commodity sector for the example the merchandise manager module automotive unit coal unit grain etc data for each of the following must be included with the traffic volume of the carload units mile areas to mile, area to area elapsed time and hours only load of the traffic needed and only traffic needed included yard terminal benchmark the terminal 12 major yards calculated in hours the cars handled not including run through and bypass train the maintenance of the way in bad orders cars on time originating of the major yards on time originations based on the departure schedule train origination of the particular yard system benchmarking car online average train velocity train type locomotive fleet size applicable bad order ratios passenger train performance for commuter intercity passenger services. 118011, the transnational other informational requirements for applicant of the system that include the operations of the Canada and Mexico. Applicants must explain how the operation of the Federal Railroad Administration would be maintained to address potential impacts of the operation of the United States with the operation of events elsewhere within their system. The application must assess whether any of the restrictions of the performance of the foreign domestic law of the policies could affect the commercial decisions discussing the ownership of the restriction applicable to them. Alright, subpart B, transfer of the operational line of the railroad reorganization, 118020, proper procedures, transaction of Title 11 of the United States Code 1172 for the transfer operational line of the bankrupt railroads under the plan of the reorganization governed by the following procedures. 1. If the buyer operator does not carry with the notice exemption procedure in subpart D of 1150 of this title, if the buyer and operator that carry either the applicant procedure for the subpart A of the part of this part or procedure is part 1121 of the title of the position to exempt the transaction from the prior approval of the requirements of Title 49 U.S. Code 1132-3, 10th sequence. The board will establish the modify the existing procedure for the deadline lines existing necessary for the proceeding that comply with the appropriate orders of the bankruptcy court. Under Title 11 United States Code 1172C1, the board will require to provide effective employee with the adequate protection. The board will impose the minimum level required in Title 49 U.S. Code United States Code 1132-6 unless they're needed to show the greater level of protection. And all applicants' notice of the petition's exemption will be in the scope of 118020A shall divide the board will a proposed transaction involve the transfer of operational line of the reorganization. Alright, and that has been a reading of part 11. Well, we'll get there. All right, we were reading Part 1180, your Railroad Acquisition Control Merger Consolidation Project, Trackage Rights and Lease Procedures.